Do you need to learn Microsoft Project? More importantly, do you need to learn Microsoft Project quickly so you can create project plans, keep them on track, and also on budget? Project management skills are one of the most sought after skills, whether you're in the healthcare industry, finance, banking or investing, information technology, manufacturing, or construction. Project management skills are needed everywhere. You'll have instant access to all the videos in our Quick Start training series, plus exclusive access to our VIP MS Project Videos members area, where you'll be able to communicate with others, ask questions, and share your knowledge with other members. So what I'd like to do is show you a demo of one of the videos in our training series, and then when you're ready to buy, simply click on the Get Instant Access button at the bottom of this page.
In this lesson, we'll be creating a project plan. Setting up your project plan correctly right from the very beginning is probably one of the more important things that you can do. Making sure that project knows when the start or finish date is, how to create a project calendar and set that calendar up so project knows the difference between working and non-working days, adding activities to the Gantt chart, duration estimates, and dates. And we're going to be using both manual and automatic scheduling here so that you can see the difference. This lesson is about getting your project plan created and set up correctly. Getting your project plan set up correctly is one of the more important things that you can do right at the very beginning. You'll notice that I'm on the File tab in the Backstage view. And basically, in the older versions, 2003 and 2007, you would go to the File menu to name your project, create a project summary task, and possibly set the options for start dates and finish dates and all of that. Instead, in the 2010 version, we're still in the File menu, but over to the right-hand side over here, you're going to see all project information. Right now, it says start date, the 26th. If I wanted to change that, I could click right in that box there, push the drop down, and choose a different start date. I'm just going to leave it on the 26th, but setting the start date for your project is one of the most important things you can do. That way, project will schedule from your actual start date. It doesn't have to be the current date that you're on. If you wanted to set the finish date instead and have projects schedule backwards from a deadline date, you could set the finish date instead. It also wants to know, how are you scheduling this, from the start date or the finish date? Again, it would be up to you and your project. I typically use the start date because it's easier for me to anticipate a finish date by using project to do so. If it's the reverse, if you select finish date, you want to make sure that project is scheduling from that finish date. You'll also notice that we've got status dates and current dates that you can change, and then it's asking you which of the calendar templates do you plan on using. It has a standard calendar, which is currently selected, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with a 1-hour lunch break. This, of course, can be adapted, and we'll do so here in just a little bit. If your company is a 24-hour company, you can choose a 24-hour calendar, or if there's a night shift calendar, you can set that up as well. Like I said, we'll go into the calendar section and adjust holidays and non-working days and so forth in just a little bit. But I'm going to leave it here on standard until I can create my own. If there is a priority for your project, you can adjust that or adapt it as well. The standard setting for all project priorities is 500. The lower the priority, the less priority it actually gets if you're working with master projects. The higher the priority, the more project will pay attention to different constraints and deadlines that you've set. The second thing that I like to do after setting a start or finish date is name the project, go into properties, and give it a project summary task. This is going to be the bolded task at the top of your project plan that basically gives you an overview of everything. Total duration, total start and finish dates, and so forth. In the 2003 and 7 versions, you would go into the File menu and choose Properties. It's basically the same thing now. You're in the File menu, and you click on the Project Information dialog box, and then click on Advanced Properties. Now that I've opened up the Project Properties box, you'll notice that it opens up here on the Summary tab. The Summary tab allows you to title your project, and typically it'll say Project 1, 2, or whatever. You can just click right here in the box and name it whatever you like. You can put yourself as the project manager and whatever company you happen to be working with. Whatever you put up here in the title box will show up as a project summary task provided you turn that option on. That option is not turned on standard, but I want it to be at the very top of my project, and I want it to track totals, total durations, total dates, and so forth. So in order to do that, I first have to come into Properties, name my project, click OK. Then I have to go into the Options tab, which is still back here in the Backstage view. It's going to open up those options, and I'm going to click here on Advanced. And I'm going to actually have to scroll down just a little bit. And right here under Display Options for this project, you're going to see Show Project Summary Task. I'm going to go ahead and click OK there and OK there. And what you'll notice is in the Gantt chart view, I now have whatever I typed in that box. And overall, it's going to track totals, the start date, the total finish date, and total duration. I like this because it gives me a high-level snapshot. This is not the same as summary tasks. In fact, I can't get in here and edit this at all. It's simply tracking everything that's going on below in the project and giving me totals overall. You don't have to do this, but it is something that I do like to do, and you can't just insert it and turn it on as a project summary task without first going into Properties, then going into Options on the Advanced tab and checking that box to turn on the project summary task. You can't just insert it on the task menu. One of the other most important things that you can do to make sure that project is tracking your schedule effectively is to make sure that your company calendar is set up. One thing that I really always try and do or show people in these classes is that making sure that your calendar is matching up with reality is the most important thing that you can do. Otherwise, project is tracking days that could be holidays or non-working time. I also like to remind people that this is not your own personal resource calendar. There are options for individual resource calendars that you can use. This is for the project. When is the organization not working, and so forth. In order to do that, we actually have to go to the Project tab, and then right here it says Change Working Time. I'm going to click that button, and this should look fairly familiar to you. You can either use the standard, the 24-hour, or the night shift, or you can create your own calendar. I like to create my own with the company name, and I like to do this so that I can use the organizer to copy it over to other projects. Otherwise, I'm stuck with the standard, 8 to 5 with an hour lunch break, and that doesn't always work out very well. So I'm going to click Create New Calendar. But I want it to make a copy of the standard. I don't want to have to start completely over. I like the way that the standard is working out, but I do want to change it. One thing that I always do is name everything that I customize in all capital letters. That way I can find it and use it over and over and over again. Okay, and it's easier to see in a drop-down menu. However, that's just my preference. I'm going to click OK, and then right now it's showing the name of the company. It's also showing the date or the calendar for the month that we're in, and it's highlighting the actual today's date. So I need to go through here and look and see when are the next days that the company has off. I believe the 31st at this point is Memorial Day. So I'm going to come in here where it says name. I'm going to click on the date that the event is happening. And then I'm going to click down here where it says exceptions and type Memorial Day. Even if that's the wrong date, I apologize. I'm going to click enter, and it's going to say start and then finish. And what you'll notice is now the 31st is red. If I click off it, it's highlighted as an exception day, which basically means when I click on it, it's non-working. That means project will not try and schedule any activities on that date, nor will it allow me to schedule any activities on that date. I always try and take my calendar out at least 3 months past when I think the project is going to end. That way I don't have to remember to do it later on. Also, the 4th of July this year actually falls on a weekend, so most companies actually give you the 5th off. So I'm going to type 4th of July, even though it's the 5th, and hit enter. Now the 5th of July is non-working, and so on. Now be careful, this calendar scrolls really quickly. As you saw, I probably blew past the Memorial Day one there by accident. But when you go through this, you'll want to just mark off days and make sure that everything is lining up. You'll notice that there's another tab here. It's called Work Weeks. And Work Weeks tabs basically are any weeks that are different from normal work weeks. For example, let's say you have a half day on one of the holidays or something like that. So let's say I go back up to July. Let's go down to July. Let's say Friday, the boss is feeling a little bit nice and they're actually going to allow you to get out early. So I'm just going to type early day here in the box. You can't click in the default box, just like before. Early day, yay. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to reselect it. Now you'll notice that the details button becomes available. So I'm going to click on details and I'm going to say select the days, so I know it's a Friday. Set day to these specific working times. I'm going to say we're going to work from 8 to noon. So I'm going to delete that second half of the day and click OK. Now you'll notice that when I click on the second, it's only showing us working from 8 to noon. So exceptions are typically for full days or non-working days, whereas work weeks are, there's something here or there that is not an entire working day, or maybe there's an entire week that the office is closed, maybe in December or January, so you can mark those things off. Once you've gotten everything the way that you want it set up, you can click OK. All right, now my calendar is set up and project will follow that. So if I try and schedule something on the 4th of July or the 5th of July, it's going to show it as a non-working time. It's also marking Saturdays and Sundays as non-working times as well. And again, if I wanted to go in here and totally change, everything about this calendar, I could actually come in here to options. And it's going to bring me back into the options. And I'm going to say, you know what? We don't start at 8 a.m. We start at 7 and we finish at about 4:30. So what that's going to do for project is basically state, okay, well, between the working hours of 7 and 4:30, okay, now your options have been changed. All right, so that's one of the things that you definitely want to do. You want to set the start date. You also want to make sure that you have a project summary task that can track everything. And you also want to make sure that you have a company calendar set up just to make sure that everything is working the way that it's supposed to. Now that you've created the calendar, this is perhaps one of the more important things that you can do after creating the calendar. Just because you created it does not mean that it's assigned to the project. In fact, once you create that brand new calendar and change your working times or non-working times or work week exceptions, you're going to have to come back into the Backstage view on the File menu, come over here to Project Information, and right here where it says Project Calendar, Standard, you'll have to click the drop down, and now you should be able to see that calendar that you created in that drop down list. This is why I put everything in caps so that I can see it in the drop down list easily and select it. You'll select the calendar for the project, and now project will track all those holidays, all those non-working times, so that you know for a fact project's keeping an eye on your scheduled timeframes. This is probably one of the more important things that you can do. So just to wrap up, the first 3 steps for getting a project plan set up. First thing that you want to do is set the start or finish date on the File menu. Then if you want a project summary task that tracks everything going on, total durations and total dates, you'll have to come into Project Information here and go to Advanced Properties. In the Advanced Properties box, you'll fill out the information, the title, your company, and so forth. Once you've completed that, you're going to want to go into the Options section, onto the Advanced tab, and make sure that you turn on the Project Summary task right down here under Display Options for this project. Once that's turned on, it will be part of your project plan right up here at the top, and it will track everything. The last thing that you want to do after changing your working time and setting up your calendar is to come back into the Backstage view and assign that calendar to your project plan. This will ensure that project is tracking everything the way that you need it tracked. The start date, where you schedule from, the calendar that you're using, and a full tracking mechanism as a project summary task for overall project durations and dates. The next thing that you're going to want to do is begin adding activities to your project plan. Just like other versions of 03 or 07, you can type directly in the cells just like you did before. I like to break my project down by process group or the project lifecycle. That way, if I'm going to use the timeline, I can use each one of these major headers as an overall timeline for the project. You'll notice I put everything in capital letters. You don't have to do that. That's just so you can see it better. But you'll notice I have initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and controlling. And I'm going to go ahead and type in closing. And when I hit enter, it doesn't automatically fill in the blanks anymore like it used to. The reason being is that each one of these are listed as manually scheduled. If I wanted to, I could auto schedule them and have a date and all of that and a duration of 0 ? Added in there. But because these are main headers, I want to wait and see what they end up being after that. You'll see task mode that my project summary task is auto scheduled, and it will show me total durations and so forth. But I've got a question mark with a little push pin right here that tells me, oh, that more information is needed and that it's manually scheduled. Once I have my high-level overview of initiation, planning, execution, and so forth, I can begin adding different activities. And what I think I'm going to do at this point is just show you how to insert. First of all, if I click on initiation and I'm on the task tab, I go to insert, and then I have options. I can insert a task, a recurring task, or a blank row. I'm going to insert a task. Now notice what happened. It went above whatever I clicked on. And the reason that I'm showing you this is because it works exactly the same as it used to. So I'm going to go ahead and click the undo because I want this task under initiation. So I'm going to go ahead and click insert again and just put task, and it will say new task. All right, now I'm going to turn off the caps so that you can kind of see what I'm doing here. The very first task in the project is to develop the project charter. So I'm going to go ahead and enter develop project charter. Now this is an actual task or deliverable that I want to actually do on the project. Now I also want to make sure that I insert another task that says identify stakeholders, because this is absolutely going to be something that we have to do as project managers in order to get our project plan set up. Notice I hit I and it auto filled in. This is kind of a new feature too, but not what I was looking for in this case, but identify stakeholders. All right, now as you know that these are the two major things that you actually do in initiation of a project. If I want to indent these as actual activities, I need to click and drag and select everything that I want to indent and begin creating my outline or my work breakdown structure. All right, now I clicked on the indent button. Okay, and notice it made initiation as a summary task. That means it's going to start automatically tracking whatever I put down here. But the individual tasks themselves are still going to remain manually scheduled. That gives me a lot more control over my schedule itself. And what I would basically do is go through here and add everything for planning, everything for execution, everything for monitoring and controlling, and for closure, and then go through and begin identifying how long things take. Duration for the project charter, I'm probably going to give it 1 full day to get done. Now I can either type it in 1D, 1 day, or I can use the up down arrows and have it enter it in for me. 1 day. I'm also going to put the start date here as the 26th because it's the beginning of the project. And notice as soon as I do that, it's automatically tracking the initiation phase as 1 full day, almost 1 full day, with taking out time for lunch breaks and all of that good stuff. So it's tracking it. The project summary task is tracking it at 1 day with a question mark because it's estimated right now. So that's how you're going to start entering in tasks, changing durations and start dates. Now watch, if I made the project charter 3 or 4 days and then hit enter, it's going to track that as well and give me a new finish date, the 26th through the 29th. Identification of stakeholders. That's probably going to take me a couple days as well. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. And that's not actually going to occur until the 28th. Actually, we'll call it the 30th. We'll put it on the 30th. Now notice it says 5 days. All right. And now we have a total duration. So that's kind of how you're going to go about doing this. Now, of course, you're not going to know right off the top of your head always how long things take. You might have to use the program evaluation review technique or PERT and estimate optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely timeframes. Typically, durations are just estimates, and you may not have them right now at this point in the project. Typically, for me, a best practice is to create the entire work breakdown structure, put all the tasks and all the outlines in, create durations and dates, but sometimes I need to know who my resources are before I estimate durations. We haven't even talked about resources yet. Honestly, the order in which time management occurs is typically the order in which project likes it. First, you define the activities, indent them, and do all of that. And then what we're going to do here in just a second is sequence them in order of occurrence by linking, and then estimate who your resources are, and then put in your durations and dates. Project typically likes it better that way, but because this is the lesson for task name, duration, start, and finish, I just wanted to give you an overview. It works very much the same as it used to, where you can manually enter things into the cells. The only difference now is you can actually manually enter start and finish dates as well. I wanted to show you what it looks like when you're finished. This is essentially a work breakdown structure. And as you scroll down, just like before, it's broken down by all of the knowledge areas from the beginning of the project of initiation all the way down through closing. This is a lot like I like to break my project plans down because it allows me to keep track of what's going on in the project. Although I noticed right here that I forgot after the develop the project charter to identify stakeholders. So I'm going to type that in. Go ahead and hit enter. Now I want to add some more information. What you might notice over here are some notes. And as I scroll down on the notes, it tells me what's going on with the activity. Well, I want to add a note for the initiation complete section here, or identify stakeholders, either one. Basically what you can do is double click on the activity itself and you'll see some information, what it is, the total duration. This is actually a milestone. Any predecessors, resources, constraints, or assumptions, but the notes section is where I want to go. So I'm going to just type notes in here so that you can see it, and I'm going to click OK. As soon as I click OK, there's a note here. This is essentially my work breakdown structure dictionary. Anything that I would need to know about the activity, I can put in there. And you'll notice some of them have quite a bit of information in here. If there's a resource that I'm aware of or a cost situation that I'm aware of, I can put that in the notes and keep track of it. Also, over to the right, because the Gantt chart is starting to be created, you'll see the summary task. This is the project summary task. These are the summary tasks themselves, everything in bold, initiation, and so on. And then anything in blue are the actual tasks themselves. This will allow me to have a visual on the right and an overview broken down in the work breakdown structure on the left-hand side.